Okay guys, so the topic of today's video, we're going to go really deep. We're going to cover mechanics liens, how to place them, what they'll do for you, and then we'll cover the next step of foreclosing and suing the customer. So we're going to cover a lot of information. We're going to try to do it in a short amount of time. So let's get right into it. Okay, so here's part of the problem with the system that exists for us contractors and customers as well. The first issue is with mechanics liens, they only can be placed after a certain amount of time. So whatever was the last day, now this is key, whatever was the last day you worked on the site physically, not necessarily from the day that you bill them. All right, so if you're a little slow to invoice a customer, or you do 30, 60, or 90-day billing, you've got to be very cautious about the state that you're in, because you may run out of time to place a mechanics lien. In New York, where I am, in New York City, I believe it's 90 days from the last day you worked on a site to the time that you have to file the lien. Let's say a customer doesn't pay you, whether they don't pay you for the entire contract or for part of it. You then file a lien. Now, the good thing about a lien over suing someone is that you won't have the burden of the attorney's fees and court costs and lost time going to court. The speedy lien is $400, I think. I think I paid, some attorneys say it's $325. Whatever the case may be. It's a few $100 basically. You fill out a couple of papers, may take you 3 to 5 minutes, nothing major. Send it back to them, send your payment, they'll place the lien, they send your customer a certified letter, and then you see what happens. Now, another thing to be wary about mechanics liens is they're only valid for a certain amount of time. So again, check your local area, all right? So in New York City, they're valid for 1 year. You then have the option to renew the lien, so then you would have to pay the fee again, because you would have to file the lien all over again. You're not subjected to the 90 days from your last day worked, because you already had the lien. So it would be attached to the first lien. Okay? So now, if the customer ignores it, then you have to renew it, or you can foreclose on the lien, which we'll get to that in a minute. So basically what a mechanics lien does is it will hopefully force your customer to come to the table, to work with you on a deal, or to just pay the amount of money that you're owed. A lot of times they're probably going to cut a deal with you. Now, there are a couple of things to be wary about mechanics liens. First of all, it goes against the property, not necessarily a judgment against the person. So you would be placing it against the property, so it will basically put like a bookmark on the title of the house. So it just makes it that the customer can't refinance, can't get a mortgage, they can't get a line of credit, equity, and they can't sell the property. The other thing to keep in mind about a mechanics lien is, let's say after a year or 2 years, you don't want to renew the lien anymore, you're going to drop the case, you're giving up. Make sure that you file a lien release form. Because liens are filed with the county clerks, that lien will remain on the title of that home, or property, I should say, forever. It will never go away. Even though the lien may not be enforceable after the year or 2 years expires, it will still be there. So if that customer should incur cost or hardship years down the line because of that lien, they could turn around and sue you and actually collect damages because that lien, you never released it, even if you were legitimately owed the money. If you don't get a judgment against them in court, or you don't keep renewing that lien, well, then you got to make sure that you release it if you're not going to pursue legal action. The other thing about mechanics liens is you then have to take the next step and foreclose on that lien. So what foreclosing on a lien means is that you are then going to turn around and sue them, basically for the amount of money that you're owed. Okay, now whether you bring them to small claims court or regular court, whatever, you sue for the amount of money that you're owed. Now in small claims court in New York City, I believe it's either $5,000 or $5,500 you can sue for. Now remember, if you win the judgment against the customer, you can then turn around and charge them interest on that money, and that would not be attached to the small claims court maximum limit allowed, because that would be a separate entity. So however many months they didn't pay you, you could actually collect interest on that money, which I actually did from one of my customers. It took them over a year to pay me after I got the judgment. I actually collected interest on that money. So that was great for me. The bummer was I won my full amount. The bummer was I had to pay an attorney to get there. So you lose money, of course. And I lost the days that I went to court. So the best way to look at a situation like this is it's lost money. This way, when you get a little bit of money, it's like found money almost. It's just a mindset I'm telling you to put yourself into when you go through this situation. And unfortunately, a lot of people know the system and they have the preconceived notion that you're not going to take it to court, because contractors mostly will do anything they can to avoid a court battle. So now we're going to cover if you're going to court. Now, there is going to be a lot of back and forth arguing with this. Okay? What I don't want you guys to fall into is don't fall into traps. Don't get bullied by the customer, because that's what they're going to try to do. Because they know in the back of their mind, if this goes to court, unless they have a great defense that you did bad work that had to be replaced, or you did something illegal, or you didn't come through on your contract, they're going to, in all likelihood, lose their case. So what a lot of customers will do is they may threaten to countersue you for court costs, for damages, etc., etc. They cannot collect that, okay? In New York City, you cannot collect attorney's fees or court costs in a lawsuit unless it's deemed a frivolous lawsuit, which by definition would be if you were just taking them to court to ruin their life, to force them to use up money so they can't continue fighting you in court. It's something that a judge will award in a child custody or divorce case. It's not something that's going to go, it's not something a judge is going to rule in a contractor-customer dispute. It's just not, because in all likelihood, it's not a frivolous matter. There may be some level of truth to the case. So what I want you guys to understand is, if you did a job that was questionable or had to be replaced, or you didn't come through on a part of your contract, probably drop the lawsuit, because if it does go to court, you'll probably lose and you'll be out the court costs. But if you did the job, if you followed your proposal and your contract and your job was on point and you could supply witnesses, or you can have the supply receipts, whatever you may have, you have a very, very good chance at winning. And what a lot of people do, I see on YouTube, or a lot of people think in the back of their mind, is that there's a preconceived notion that the contractor is wrong. And in a sense, that is true. But in my experience that I've had in the court system, which has only been a couple of times, 2-3 times, I've went through this, is that if you cross your I's and dot your T's and you have a strong case, you're going to win. And yes, it's going to cost you money to foreclose on that lien. So the only problem that I could see going to court is if, let's just say you're owed like $1,000, probably the attorney's fees, the time is going to eat that up. So you may end up dropping it. You may go after it for the principle of the matter, but you're not going to get the money that you deserve. And that's what a lot of customers will do. They'll actually pay you to a certain point where they feel it's not worth it for you to take them to court over it. And that's what they'll use as their leverage, because they feel that you won't pursue it because it doesn't pay. So that's how a lot of these customers will get around and snake around the system. But if a customer owed me $500, I'd put a lien, but I wouldn't pursue it in court because it doesn't pay. But when we're talking thousands upon thousands, I'm sorry. Coco sees another dog. I know it's another dog. I know. Sorry about that. Coco is riding with me today. We're just checking out the parking lots to make sure that they don't need any salt. There are going to be circumstances where it may not pay to take the people to court. It looks like we need a little salt in this one, though. So there may be circumstances where it may not pay to bring them to court, but for the most part, guys, if you're owed thousands of dollars, which in all likelihood you will be, you should definitely pursue the case, in my opinion. So don't fall into that trap, and don't be bullied by a lack of knowledge about the system, because that's what these customers, they're in all likelihood repeat offenders. These are not good people who always pay their bills. For the most part, they know the system. They know what to say to you to scare you. Chances are this would not be their first rodeo. Don't be bullied. Be educated. Listen to what I'm telling you. You don't have to pay their attorney's fees. You have to pay your own. Yeah, you'll have to pay the court costs. Yeah, you'll have to pay for the lien. But if you could collect interest on the money that you win, it may defer that cost. So to me, if you have a strong case and you have enough money owed out, well then by all means, pursue it. So there are certain people in life who encounter challenges and cry about them. I problem solve. So the foreman called me this morning. He said, "Oh, I'm having a box drop tomorrow. Can you come and pick up your dumpster if you need it for another job?" Because remember, I have the 5-footers in there. I said, "Okay, I'll be there this afternoon." This was supposed to come tomorrow, but it's here today. I guess maybe they had no work. So instead of calling and whining about it, let's be proactive about it. So I hooked my hook. My hook is too thin to get on that hook. So I found a rust hole. Works just as good. I lifted it off the ground. I'm just going to back it up far enough to the point where I could hook up to my box. I got the T630 here started. I don't know if he's going to move. They didn't clean the tracks too good. But if not, if the machine is froze, I'll come back. I'm going to drop that box on the job. I'll come back empty. I'll hook up to this again, and I'll drag it back to the front for the guys. I'm going to go nice and slow, just in case this thing tries to walk away on me. It's one nice thing about frozen ground, boys and girls. Frozen ground, you roll easy. Oh, wanted to make one more point about mechanics liens. Okay, that I forgot. The point that I forgot from the other video. Try to always sign the deal with the property owner, not necessarily the general contractor on the job. The reason being is, if you have a deal with the GC and not the property owner could, sorry about that guys, the road's a little rough. The property owner could go to court and say that he paid the general contractor, and the judge could actually waive the lien on you because you never had a direct dealing with the property owner. You had to deal with the general contractor, and if the general contractor is the one who beat you, well, then you may be SOL. Now my only concern is if the rails are frozen to the ground. So anyway, guys, like I was saying, the property owner could always claim, if he can prove that he paid the GC and the GC didn't pay you, he may be able to, well, not will be, he will be able to get rid of that lien, and you'll still be out of luck. So very, very important. I know on some of these bigger projects, you're not going to know the property owner. I understand that. On projects that I deal with, chances are, which they always are, you're going to deal with the property owner. But if you guys can, always try to sign a deal with the property owner. You could work with the GC, but always try to make sure that your checks and your payments are coming through the property owner. Because otherwise, you may be out if the GC decides not to pay. And the property owner, in all likelihood, isn't going to pay twice. Especially if he paid the general contractor. It's not his responsibility. It's not the property owner's responsibility to make sure that the GC pays everyone.